Throughout League's history, there have been countless broken items, but there is one specific item that is credited for creating one of League's most toxic metas of all time, and ruining competitive play. Don't believe me? Well, just look at this.
Takes 8 shots. 2. We're just gonna count them. 3. How do you get past that? 4. Got kicked backwards, Roar of the Slayer.
So that's why you pick Sign in this meta.
There we go. Use that skill shot, and the tower's fallen. Look, the theory crafting's great. The execution's better.
This makes no sense.
Man, it just hurts so badly. Right, amazing. If this tower falls, this single minion has done more to the rift
Oh man.
than giants. Boom! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Siege minion meta. Norskeren has got himself a banner of command as well.
Look at it. Oh god.
Do you know, this is actually disgusting.
That is what Pro League of Legends looked like for about 4 months, all thanks to this item, Banner of Command. If you look at forum posts from this year about what the most boring or hated meta of all time was, Banner of Command is still always one of the top answers, if not the top answer. And for good reason. For months, it dominated professional play and warped the game's meta completely. But the story of Banner of Command is not as simple as it seems. How it ended up breaking League is often misremembered. The idea is usually that Banner of Command was reworked a bunch until eventually one rework of the item was way too good and just broke the game's balance to pieces. But that's not exactly what happened. Banner of Command may be almost as much of a victim of Riot Games as we all are. This video is going to cover the story of Banner of Command, one of League's most toxic items of all time that broke competitive League of Legends. But first, let me tell you about something else that's overpowered, protecting your online privacy, thanks to this video's sponsor, NordVPN. Let's say you head down to your local cafe to play League of Legends on their Wi-Fi with 2000 ping. You'll want to make sure that your League account information is secure. You wouldn't want to lose all those rare skins after all. And public Wi-Fi, as you know, can be compromised. Well, luckily for you, NordVPN encrypts and protects your online data, so you don't have to worry about if your information is safe. Not only that, NordVPN can protect you from all kinds of threats. Thanks to Threat Protection Pro, NordVPN can even keep you safe from phishing schemes, malware, and more. You can become safer online today, and best of all, NordVPN is so confident you'll love their product, they even offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you don't like the product, you can get your money back within 30 days of purchase. You can use my link, nordvpn.com/mythlol, in the description and pinned comment below to receive 4 bonus months. Thanks to their 30-day guarantee, it's completely risk-free. Thank you again to NordVPN for sponsoring this video, and let's jump back into it. To start with, let's go back to a better time, December of 2012. Banner of Command was added to League of Legends. It gave ability power, armor, a health regen aura to allies, and the ability to promote a siege minion into a more powerful version. It also gave an aura to minions specifically, increasing their damage dealt by 15%. The promote active was basically the summoner spell Promote, which was being removed in the same patch. So Banner of Command was really just a reworked version of Promote. No one played it, and it would take years before this item would ever break into professional League of Legends. To start, in the old days, it was often seen as a meme item. The very first time it was ever built in a pro match was actually by Dade in 2013 on mid lane Nidalee, but this game was a complete stomp. Samsung Ozone was ahead almost 10,000 gold in 16 minutes, and by the time Banner of Command was even built, the game was long since decided. So Dade really was just building it for fun. The match was actually played just days before Banner of Command received a rework. The rework updated its stats, removing its armor completely, but doubling its ability power and its cooldown reduction. This version of the item was actually built on some champions. The increased AP and cooldown reduction meant that champions like Zyra, Malzahar, and Heimerdinger were now able to use the item fairly well. This is because the 15% increased damage from minions applied to their pets, but still, it was really only played in solo queue. Well, mostly, because during the EULCS Super Week, this is what happened.
You can get around that and dodge it, maybe flash it or avoid it. That's going to be his way into the game. That's going to be his tool with dealing with the Copenhagen Wolves. And raise your what? Heimerdinger is locked in.
Absolutely awesome.
He can sit with Karma and Gragas and poke under a tower, and if you engage in him, you can fall back to your turrets. But it's not the strongest at moving forward.
You actually have minions pushing in that top side of the map right now.
What I'd like to highlight about that giant glowing red siege minion is that is a Banner of Command upgraded minion from Youngblood.
Probably the biggest item is Youngblood's Guardian Angel is now in there. So not only is it hard to get into him without taking absolute masses of damage, well, you're going to have to do it twice here if you want to finish him off. 4-1-3. First Heimerdinger we've seen, definitely impressed so far.
Banner of Command had technically been built, and the Wolves did play a siege comp, but the actual impact of Banner of Command was minimal throughout the game. The buffed minion just wasn't that strong. To really put it into perspective, between League's release and December 2014, Banner of Command was built 7 times. Ever. In total. Across NALCS, EULCS, Champions, and GPL. That is, until December 2014, one of League's most infamous patches of all time. The patch that embodied skill expression and added this monstrosity to the game. Patch 4.20, the patch that added League's most difficult one-shot combo, pressing R on Warwick. But aside from that, it also had more changes to Banner. Its AP and cooldown reductions were lowered, and it now built from Aegis of the Legion. This meant that the item now gave magic resist and health, and also granted a 20 magic resist aura, plus base health regeneration to all allies. This made the item much more flexible in general because the Aegis passive was just so strong. On top of all that though, they changed the promote active as well. It now had a minute lower cooldown and could be used on regular minions, not just the cannons. Oh, and did I mention it now made the minion completely immune to magic damage? What could go wrong? Well, some people started noticing how strong this could be, with posts and clips popping up of Baron buffed minions sieging bases. Top comment on this post said, "I hope we'll see some LCS protect the minion strats." The monkey's paw definitely curled when that person wrote the comment, because we would be seeing much more than some protect the minion games in pro play. This is the point in the video where we talk about what a disaster it was, right? And how it ruined pro play in solo queue? Well, no actually. The item started to be built in pro play, but not very often. It was 4 months before Banner of Command showed up in the patch notes yet again. Amazingly, the patch note said, "This item seems to actually be in a pretty healthy state." My favorite thing about this is that it sounds like even Riot was surprised that magic immune siege minions didn't break the game wide open. They said, "It's good for breaking sieges against an Anivia or Ziggs, and it's strong to augment your own siege with a Baron buff. Only calling this out to note that we're still looking if it needs anything for later patches. In other words, we're just talking. We're fine." They really did include Banner of Command in the patch notes to not change anything. There was no bug fix, no tooltip update, that was it. It's almost like they really expected Banner of Command to be broken with magic immune minions. Put a pin in that because we're coming back to that later. The next change to Banner of Command would be 6 months later, in patch 5.16. Now if you played League a long time, or you've been around the channel for a while, you might have just experienced a fight or flight response, because that is the infamous Juggernaut patch. This patch broke League's balance completely. In hindsight, it genuinely feels like Riot was trying to break League back in 2015, and this time, they succeeded. But not because of Banner of Command. The Juggernaut patch is for a different video, which you should definitely check out. In this patch, Banner was changed again, and so was Locket of the Iron Solari. This is because of nerfs to Aegis of the Legion, which is a very important item to League's history. See, the magic resist aura was very cost effective. It was a guarantee that someone on the team was going to buy this item in almost every single game. If there was any AP damage at all, it was an easy to justify purchase. And Aegis built into 2 items, Locket and Banner. Locket was an item for tanks that gave resistances, while Banner gave more AP and was intended for enchanters. The active for Locket though gave a shield to everyone, and it was actually a very big shield back in the day. So when deciding between which item to build Aegis into, it was a very easy choice. You had to pick between a really strong AoE shield or getting a big minion. For most players, in most games, the AoE shield was just way too much guaranteed value in a fight, and it was almost always the preferred option. But you're still waiting for me to say that Banner of Command finally broke League. Wait just a bit longer, we're almost there. After this change in November of 2015, Banner remained in the game, unchanged, for another full year. During this period, it was actually built in hundreds of professional games on a wide range of champions, usually supports and sometimes junglers, like Elise. But this is hundreds of games across all regions and all tournaments. Really, it wasn't built that often at all, especially when compared to lock it, which was so strong that it was often being built multiple times on the same team. Whether people used Banner to push out a side lane or to increase the ability to siege a base, it was rarely even mentioned by the casters. In general, it just wasn't that impactful. And this is why, in patch 6.22, after a full year without any changes, Riot reworked it yet again. This time, they wanted it to be an item for tanks. Its AP components were removed, being replaced with armor, some extra magic resist, and mana. This was the same patch that removed the aura effect from Aegis of the Legion, so as a result, it was also removed from Banner of Command. Rest in peace old Aegis, gone but not forgotten. Even after these changes, Banner of Command still didn't break the game. Again, it remained untouched except for very small changes for over a year. It might surprise you, but the real twist of this story is that there was no change to Banner of Command that broke Banner of Command. So what happened to cause this?
We got the beef squad, baby!
Well, patch 8.4 happened, and patch 8.4 broke League of Legends. It introduced a lot of changes, but the most important were changes to the Hand of Baron buff, which was received for killing Baron. They increased the stats it gave by about double, but the real broken changes were to the minions, in the form of a bug fix. See, it turns out that there were two bugs affecting minions. The first bug was that siege minions were not receiving the plus 50 attack damage per hit that Baron was supposed to buff them with. The second bug was that siege minions were also not being affected by the plus 100 damage that was supposed to be granted by Banner of Command. So that's 150 less per shot from an empowered siege minion, right? Well, no actually. See, empowered siege minions also dealt double damage to turrets. So this means that this whole time, they were actually dealing 300 damage less per shot than they were supposed to. In a true Riot Games moment, they fixed both of these bugs at the same time, and also made empowered caster minions take 50% less damage from champions to boot. It's worth noting that this bug existed in the game for literally years, affecting a huge amount of pro games, even the ones without a banner in it. This is because the Hand of Baron buff itself, on its own, was not applying to siege minion attacks against structures. This change unleashed the Banner of Command meta on League of Legends, and its impact cannot be exaggerated enough. You might think, well, since it was really a bug fix, who possibly could have seen this coming? Well, honestly, everyone. Even while this change was still on PvE, players were already talking about how it was not going to be balanced and how fast it would take down structures. There were several clips and posts about Banner of Command which made it to the front page of Reddit before it even made it to professional play.
Oh my goodness. Riot Games, what have you done?
Before the changes even went live, Jack spoke at length on the Dive podcast about how insanely strong these changes were going to be.
The most meaningful thing, in my opinion, is fixing a bug where bonus attack damage wasn't affecting empowered siege minions, which is twice as impactful as it sounds since empowered siege minions deal double damage to turrets.
Yep.
So what this means, and I've been testing this, and I wonder if there's going to be any pro teams that try this. If you build Banner of Command and put it on an empowered siege minion, it does 500 damage per hit to a turret, and it hits every 2 seconds, and is immune to magic damage, by the way.
Yep.
So it can 100-0 a turret in 16 seconds if no one else is hitting it by itself, because turrets have 3,600 health. There are situations, if you're really good as well, where you can actually get 2 siege minions in the same wave, and if you then had 2 banners, the minions themselves would kill the turret in 8 seconds. If a team gets Baron and a banner, they just walk that minion to a turret, and if the other team doesn't hard engage to draw minion aggro away from the turret or kill the team, they lose their entire base. Like, it actually doesn't take very long. It's a minute-long push, and your Nexus turret is down. So I think that's super busted, first and foremost.
Yeah.
Played a solo queue game. I was playing with Flowers and Zyrene. It was gold even at 20 minutes. We snuck Baron. We won in 24 minutes.
Yeah.
Because we just bannered a minion and won on the push.
Yeah.
If it's going to be dominant, you're going to want to pick up a few games with it.
Yeah.
I think it should be, personally.
I think it should be tried, and I think, my instinct also was that it probably should be on the LCS stage this weekend.
Yeah.
It seemed like even Riot knew how broken it was. This is the patch rundown from when the change went live.
This is freaking massive. Fixed a bug where bonus attack damage, such as from Hand of Baron and Banner of Command, weren't affecting siege minions when Baron buffed. I want you to guess, without looking at that chart I showed you a second ago, What percentage DPS increase is this? They do 3.5 times the damage they did before, because it never counted banner before. This is a massive, massive, massive buff. Holy moly. This is nuts.
Well, the very first game of the LCS on patch 8.4 featured Banner of Command, but so did pretty much every single match in every region for the entirety of the patch. Building Banner of Command was clearly the optimal way to play, and that's why everyone was doing it. There were just too many advantages. The empowered siege minion would shoot from so far away that no one could clear it. Your best chance would have been wave clear mages with a lot of range, except for the fact that the minion was completely immune to magic damage thanks to their change back in patch 5.16. So it became common to see support players take minion dematerializer specifically to counter banner. You'd save all the charges to one-shot the empowered minions later in the game. Meanwhile, in solo queue, this is what was happening.
Get 'em, boys!
This is League of Legends, dude.
This meta was kind of similar to the Protect the Carry meta that has often been popular throughout League's history, except now, the carry was the empowered minion.
For poking.
Meant for poking. There we go. Which works when when your job is to protect the tower killing siege minion, right? This composition's about. Unstoppable Onslaught comes in. Emperor's Divide sends H2K back. There is a defensive package. Try to clear up the minion wave, but crucially, the Bannon minion survives. One more shot and the tower falls. Smitty J is tagged. 2 more shots will lock him down. Cataclysm comes out, and Smitty J's taken out. His passive will get a couple autos down, but the Unicorns are rampaging forward. It's a 5,000 gold lead, and that minion is still alive.
A very popular pick in this meta was Scion. When played mid lane in particular, he was extremely frustrating to deal with. If Scion was picked against the mage, he would just rush Banner of Command and then force the mage to stay in lane all the time, unable to deal with the completely magic immune minion crashing into their tower.
Welcome to the Siege minion meta. Norscarin has got himself a Banner of Command as well.
Look at it. Oh god.
Do you know, this is actually disgusting. The Volcanic Rupture, plus the Caitlyn Yordle Snap Traps, plus the Poke, plus the Bannon-powered Siege Minion. It is destroying giants. The Inhibitor has already fallen. This minion hasn't even been touched, and they can just do it again.
Less than 2 weeks after the changes to Banner of Command went live, it was nerfed, to make it so that the damage multiplier against turrets no longer stacked with the multiplier from Baron. But this did not stop the Banner of Command meta. Not at all. It continued to dominate the game. To show just how strong it was, in the LCK on patch 8.5, Banner of Command as an item had an 80% win rate. But the community did not like seeing Banner of Command so often. It just wasn't exciting for every game to be rushing Banner, contesting Baron, and then ending the game on the next push. For over 2 more months, Pro League was stuck in Banner meta. That is, until Riot announced yet another rework in patch 8.11. You might think that this was the end of the Banner meta, and if you do think that, you're completely wrong. This is Riot Games after all. The patch notes said that Banner was too good at pinning a mid laner to their wave due to the magic immunity. Because the item was so good at wave control and shutting down roaming, they removed the magic immunity. Instead, the empowered minion now took 70% less damage from champions. Magic damage or physical, it didn't matter. The community was, collectively, stunned when reading these patch notes, and I think you can already imagine the impact of this change. The result of this was, instead of countering mages and forcing them to stay in lane, it now countered everyone and forced everyone to stay in lane. This change went live on May 31st, 2018, and had to be hotfix nerfed 1 day later. The patch note said, "We changed Banner to make the empowered minion less of a shutdown against AP champs. Now it's causing problems for everyone, especially when multiple teammates started stacking it. Who could have possibly seen that coming?" Banner of Command had gone full circle, from not being built at all while people stacked Locket of the Iron Solari, to now being stacked instead of Locket. The hotfix made it so that Banner minions had 40% damage reduction instead of 70% damage reduction. So, did this change work? Did it put Banner into a balanced spot? Of course not. It did pretty much nothing. In this patch, Banner of Command was built all the time anyway. See, 40% damage reduction was still a lot. Plus, Baron also gave minions additional resistance instances, so they were still tanky and banner was still the meta. And that is why Riot felt like they had to respond and put an end to the 4 months of madness. Less than 2 weeks after this attempt at balancing banner, in patch 8.12, Banner of Command was removed from the game.
Banner of Command, when it's been good, has been kind of unfun for the game. I know there were players who enjoyed using it, they got some gameplay out of it, they felt like they could affect the map. I agree, Banner of Command has been a powerful item before. That's true. Anytime something is powerful, it no longer exists, people who use that power have less power. That's a fact. But I do agree with the take that Banner of Command tends to remove fun from the game. So yeah.
The patch notes said that Banner was always either never purchased at all or meta warping. As a result, it was being removed to evaluate if it's an item niche that was engaging and fun enough to work in League. The community was overall happy with this change, but also confused. Yes, the Banner of Command meta was widely hated. The casters, players, and pros all thought it was a disgusting item and were glad to see it go. But Banner of Command existed in the game since 2012. It had been reworked over and over and was actually built by some champions at certain points throughout League's history. And let's keep in mind, for a large part of its existence, Banner itself was actually bugged and wasn't even applying its own damage increase correctly. It wasn't until Riot did 2 bug fixes to Banner and Baron simultaneously that it actually broke the game, and the entire community, including Riot itself, knew that the item was going to be incredibly strong after this change. Keep in mind that before these bug fixes, Banner had not received any meaningful changes since November of 2016. So for a year and a half, Banner was totally fine. Some might even say it was balanced. It was built sometimes and never warped the meta around it until patch 8.4 happened. As a result, many players felt like Riot had never made a real attempt to actually balance the item. Their attempted fix to the problem that they had created was to remove the magic immunity effect from promoted minions, and instead add damage reduction, which if anything was actually a buff. But I'm curious, what do you think? Was Banner of Command really the problem? Or was Banner a victim of Riot Games balancing? Do you think that the modern version, Hullbreaker, is a better way to have an item like this? Did you play League or watch pro games back when it was Banner meta? Or is this totally new to you? As always, before finishing up, I wanted to take a moment to thank you for supporting the channel. I'm so grateful I get to make content like this. So again, thanks for listening to me yap, and I hope you have a great day.